Thank you for being here today. I want to recognize the members of the Charlotte City Council as well as the members of the MTC that are here today. So raise your hand if you're that, and I know that I have some council members. Here we are, Mr. Graham and Mr. Peacock, and as well anyone else from the MTC. I have my vice chair working with us today as well. So before we talk about the work we're doing on transit, I have to say something from my heart. Many of you know that I have been in this situation before, and having to have this loss of my arena, it's been a terrible time for all of us. We know the violence was on our like rail, but we also know that our city is mourning this loss and will likely never forget it. No one in Charlotte should feel unsafe about getting to work, school, or home to their family. Safety has been and will continue to be our top priority. And we have been working with the White House, our federal officers and assistants, and all of this that we want to do. We definitely want to be sure that we are taking the right steps forward. We've expanded the jurisdiction of our transit security provider. Professional Police Services, PSS, known to most of us, so that they can patrol more of our transit facilities and adjacent areas. The Charlotte Transit Center, Rail Trail, among others, are all now included. CATS has been able to add additional patrol units, including bike teams and urban terrain vehicles. These are not things that we're promised. These are the things that we are doing. These steps are in motion. Our city departments, CATS leadership, and federal and state partners are sitting at the same table, sharing information and coordinating and collaborating each step of the way. Safety is taken care if all of us work together. And I want to be clear that I hear often from our neighbors, our residents, the people that live in this great city who just want to feel safe. I live in this city. I've lived in this city since I was in college, and I understand what it means to be safe. I take this personally. I want my grandchildren to grow up and be a part of this city. And that means that we have to change and make things possible for them and the next generation and the next generation after that. We owe that not just to those of us that are here today, but we owe this to Irena's family and to every person that ever thought about we should ride the bus or the train for whatever reason. I'm committed to this work, and we won't stop until our system is as safe as it can possibly be. Part of making sure the system is safe is making sure that everyone who uses the system needs to pay their fair share. Everyone in this region is being asked to support the transit system with the 1 cent mobility referendum on November the 4th. If our community invests in our transit system, then our riders must pay fares. The MTC members have spoken at length regarding the need to increase fare enforcement and reduce fare evasion. I and the MTC are committed to this work. I plan to work with members of the MTC to introduce a resolution at our next meeting, ensuring that we are actually going to have fare evasion and working towards making sure everyone pays fair share of our transit system. It won't be easy. We'll need to make some investments, but at the same time, we have to approach this process and this plan for fare evasion, because fare evasion is often a symptom of different challenges. We can't ignore that, so we will have to work out how to best do it. I want to say, in outreach and education and policies that meet people where they are, we believe that we can have a system that is safe. Now, I don't do this alone. Many of you have been with us on the ride since we've been talking about how do we maintain having transportation initiatives for this great city. And I want to say to you that I am really proud that we've been able to address these issues candidly and openly. And I want you to do that because I know that behind me is the co-chair of the MTC, Davidson Mayor Rusty Knox. I would like to welcome him to the podium to address what the work we've been doing as MTC leaders.
Thanks,
Rusty.
Good morning. I'm Rusty Knox. I'm the Mayor of Davidson. I also serve as Vice Chair of the MTC. And I want to tell you, public transportation is safe in Mecklenburg County. I am from Davidson. I'm one of those rare people that was born and raised in Davidson. My wife is from Charlotte. We come to Charlotte often. We are on the Blue Line regularly. I take the express bus to Charlotte for meetings. I've never felt unsafe. The tragic death of Rena Zariska was something that was spontaneous and probably unpreventable. That's the sad part about it. Can we learn from that? Yes. Are additional measures being taken to ensure that the public feels they're in a more safe environment? Absolutely. But I just want everybody to know that the MTC is going to do everything in our power with the resources that we're providing to both PPS and to CMPD to ensure that safety is priority one for anyone that chooses to use public transportation, but also anyone that has to navigate the city. So just be assured that as long as we're a structured organization in MTC, we will do all that we can, and that message will carry through if the 1 cent sales tax passes in November and the new transit authority is created. Safety has to be paramount. It has to be the most important thing besides just making sure that the trains run on a 10-minute cycle and the buses run on a 15-minute cycle. Those are just givens. I think with the new initiatives that you're going to see, we're going to be in a better place. But I will promise you, the one thing that Mayor Lyles alluded to was fare evasion. That's one thing that we've got to solve, and I think taking those measures will be first and foremost at our next MTC meeting coming up this month. So with that, I'm going to defer to City Manager Marcus Jones at this time. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for the interest, and know that you can reach out to myself and the other board members if you have any further questions. Thank you.
So thank you, Mayor and Mayor. I'm Marcus Jones, City Manager of Charlotte, and I wanted to start off by just saying how important public safety is to our city. It's what we do. The City Council has spent the better part of the last year and a half having discussions around public safety, and what's very clear is that while there are many things that we can do, there's more that has to be done. We have multiple city departments and multiple agencies that play a role in safety. But in terms of the city of Charlotte, about 40% of our general fund budget is solely for police. So it's 40% of our general fund budget supports police. When you add fire to it, it's about 60% of our general fund budget. Over the past several years, we have made tremendous investments in public safety, and we would go back to even 2019. What I do is I have opportunities with our public safety pay plan committee, which is made up of police and fire, and we talk about what's important for attracting great people in public safety as well as retaining them. So since 2019, we have increased the starting salary for police by 34% and the top out salary by 41%. What we had to do is undo a bunch of things that happened during the Great Recession, where it took longer for police officers and firefighters to top out. So we were able to have, through different policies and initiatives, have police officers top out earlier, which is very significant for CMPD. But we also did things around second and third shift where we provided more funding. We added more recruit classes, and we're seeing retention trend in the right direction, and we're seeing vacancies trend in the right direction also. But also we've taken some steps to make sure that those jobs and positions that police officers were handling, for instance, like a captain who is overseeing the 911 center, how could we change those to civilians? And we were able to take vacant positions, change those to civilian positions so that we can have more officers patrolling the streets. You may have seen the 16 civilian crash investigators that we have, again, freeing up hours for police officers to patrol. The same thing with 40 sworn vacant positions that we've converted into civilian positions. We will continue to work with our partners. During the past several months, we worked with community leaders, we worked with the business community with a focus on a comprehensive plan as it relates to public safety. More will come in the next week or two, but I want you to know that we've focused on various areas in our city, starting with the uptown, but not limited to the uptown. We have additional resources in our central division. We have targeted patrols, and we have targeted response for intervention and outreach. We're working more to make sure that we can keep our community safe. Now, Brent is going to talk about transit and some of the safety measures there, but I want to assure you that we're not limiting it just to transit. How can we make sure that our entire community feels safe and we have the resources to make sure that we can back that up? So I'll turn it over to Brent.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Brent Cagle, Interim CEO of CATS. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. I'll keep my comments brief so that we can move over to questions. I think today, this is what we're talking about, visual presence. You see PPS officers here. You also see the equipment behind me that they are deploying. It really is a visual way to show our commitment to safety and security throughout transit. The partnership with PSS is growing and evolving as we work together to ensure the safety of our operators, our customers, and as we work to reduce or eliminate fare evasion throughout the system. All of these are top priorities, and CATS with PPS and in partnership with CMPD, we're ready to implement and execute on these plans. PPS continues to increase staffing with personnel now at approximately 200 staff hired and available, including over 40 armed personnel that are part of the PPS contract. All of these personnel are backed up and supported by 24 FTE or 966 hours per week of off-duty Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department officers. I think it's also important to note that all of the personnel receive extensive training, including unarmed personnel, before they go out to serve the community and transit. And all of the unarmed personnel are fully supported by armed personnel with PPS and by CMPD. Adding the bike unit and UTVs really makes PPS and CATS more mobile and capable to protect our system going forward.
All right, we will open it up to questions. If you could tell us who you are, what outlet you're with, and we'll try to get through as many of these as we can before the pilot driver turns back on.
Andy Weber with Queen City News.
And who you're directing the question to.
Sure, Mr. Cagle. There was talk in the auditor's report there being around 40 some odd armed officers. Is that enough, you believe, to keep the system safe and to increase perception of safety?
Yes, so the auditor did note in his report one element of the contract, armed security, I think it's important to remember that one element of the contract doesn't represent the position entirely on how to provide proper security throughout the system. We know visible presence is important. And so what we have is a more than 100% increase in staffing across certified law enforcement, armed security, as well as unarmed security, all working together to protect the system. And all of that is backed up in conjunction with CMPD and our partnerships with law enforcement. And so, yes, we do believe that this is a solid strategy. The other thing I'll say, and others have talked about this, as we think about staffing, we also know we need more staffing. And so we're committed to growing that contract as we move forward. But when we entered into the agreement, the partnership with PPS, it was about creating that right mix to create better visible presence and a stronger security position across the entire system.
Mayor Miles Hunter Signs here with Channel 9. I have a question for you in regards to the Fraternal Order of Police have requested that the National Guard now come to Charlotte after all of this and recent violent crime. Do you believe the National Guard should come to Charlotte?
I believe in Charlotte first and foremost, Hunter. I believe that we have the ability in this community, the number of people that are engaged now to make this a safer city is from every part of our community. It's from the business community, it's from our educational works and all of that. So what I believe is that given the time that we have to work with the White House and the other federal offices, that we will not need the Guard to come to Charlotte.
Mr. Cagle, David Hodges, WBTV. To the point that the auditor was making about the amount of armed security professionals and train cabs, could we see an armed security officer on every single CATS light rail cab moving forward after this?
Yeah, as I've said before, we don't believe that that is feasible. We also don't believe it creates a force that can stay mobile to respond throughout the system. If there are significant numbers of security on every vehicle, if those trains need to be stopped for some reason, that means those security are stationary with that train. And so again, it's not about are there personnel on every vehicle every day, all day long. It's are there personnel visibly present throughout the entire system, always throughout the day.
Can I also ask how that intersects with the bus system? Because just to remind everyone, Carlos Brown Jr. got to the light rail by riding the bus. He entered the stop closest to the roof above. There are assaults, our viewers have seen on buses frequently. How is CATS going to address safety issues on buses where some of these people are often entering the light rail system?
Yeah, so buses are the backbone of every transit system, and just like light rail, buses need to be safe. Passengers need to feel safe when they're riding buses. And so again, these measures aren't just about the blue line or the rail, it's about buses as well. And again, I'll reiterate, everyone needs to have a ticket. Fare evasion, we will be focusing on reducing or eliminating fare evasion as we move forward, and that is across the entire system, whether it's buses, rail, all of our modes.
Marcus Hunter again with Channel 9. I have two quick questions for you. We talked about hiring off-duty police officers to help in this effort. What percentage of those slots are being filled or are filled?
So I believe that we have about 800 hours of off-duty police officers. I love the way you framed it, because that means we're not taking anybody that's actively patrolling off the street for this purpose. And my understanding is that all of those slots have been subscribed.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Respectfully, it's not what I have heard from people internal in the department, but I will say they are not being paid, I've learned, through their city paycheck, which means their overtime can't strategically be used towards their pension. They're instead getting paid through power detail. They're getting paid $80 an hour, so I hear. why not make that incentive to pay them through their city paycheck for this off-duty work?
So I'll start off with the process. So with off-duty, it's no different. The CATS is no different than any other entity. So there's an off-duty rate, and they are being paid through CATS funds and not through the city's general fund, just like an off-duty for another entity.
But there are other off-duty entities that are paid through their city paycheck.
Well, I'm not sure how this is structured with this that's different than what else we do. But Brandon, if you could tell them how this is
But Marcus,
structured.
if not to incentivize to fill more off-duty
Yeah.
officers on there, I think the biggest question here is the city trying to save money over keeping the community safe?
No, not at all. Again, my understanding is that this has been subscribed to, maybe even oversubscribed, but let's just say that I have not heard up to this point that there has been an issue with the off-duty officers filling the slots that CATS has made available.
Brent Cagle, Brett Jensen, WBT Radio. In terms of making sure that everyone has a ticket to get on the light rail or whatever, the people that you're going to have there checking the tickets on the light rail itself, are they going to be women? Are they going to be men? Are they going to be able to defend themselves to prevent someone getting on who really wants to get on, like DeCarlos Brown? How will that happen? Because if there's someone that can't handle themselves, we'll be back here in 2 years from now talking about how someone was assaulted trying to prevent someone from getting on while trying to check tickets.
So they will all be trained security. That's where we are now. We will be looking at, and we've said this publicly, many transit agencies have transitioned fare inspection or ticket checkers over to non-security, and we do intend to evaluate that and possibly execute that. They are then trained for how to de-escalate and how to handle those situations, but they are not there to provide a security function. They are there to be supported by security as they're conducting their activities.
Right, so how would they prevent someone from actually getting on if they wanted to get on? And the person
They're not there to prevent someone from getting on. They're there to identify someone who hasn't paid, and if that person refuses, security is there to remove them from the system.
Brent Cagle, Kenneth Lee, WFAE. Are you guys thinking about adding turnstiles to the Casper Light Rail?
That has come up frequently for the Blue Line. The Blue Line was constructed originally as an open system versus a closed system. Closed systems have turnstiles, open systems do not. It is not something that we have looked at, but certainly it's something that we'll continue to have conversations about with the MTC or ultimately the Transit Authority if this referendum passes on November 4th.
Can we pose the same question to Mayor Lyles and Mayor Knox, since y'all will be dealing with a lot of the policy? Is considering turnstiles, barriers to limit physical access something that y'all would consider for limiting variation?
Well, I think the issue also is providing safety for everyone that gets on is most important. But the one thing to look at when we're looking at the Blue Line, for example, is the frequency at which it runs. We're roughly on an 8 to 10 minute cycle right now on the Blue Line. The turnstiles potentially will slow that system down. If it slows it down in the event and because of safety, I think that's a good thing. But, you know, it's a convenience thing, too, for a lot of people to know that I can catch the Blue Line every 10 minutes and I can get to and from my job or to and from a doctor's appointment or whatever. Now, with turnstiles, if it ends up being 15 minutes or something, you got to weigh that option, and I think safety will be first and foremost, regardless.
Yeah, with all due respect, though, Mayor Knox, they use turnstiles in New York City. They use turnstiles everywhere for the subways, be it Boston, be it D.C., be it Chicago.
Right.
Why not here? If
Well,
it's okay for them, why not us?
It may be all right for us. I think that's something that we now have to look at. I think for me, and I've been riding public transit since I got elected in 2017, and I've always felt safe. And I think most of us that use public transit are of the same mindset. We've always felt safe until August 22nd. And if this is the catalyst for making a more safe environment for everyone that chooses or has to ride public transit, I think that's a great thing. But, you know, for me, I was on the Blue Line this weekend. I didn't feel unsafe. I was on the Blue Line 2 weeks before Irina Zaruska passed away. I didn't feel unsafe. So I think that's the most important thing is looking at what public transit is in Mecklenburg County and how historically it has been a safe method to get around our county.
One thing, let me follow up on this too. So you make a good point. The subways that you referred to are closed systems. Atlanta, New York, Boston. We don't have a subway. We have a light rail system, and the norm for light rail systems is just like ours. They're constructed as open system. There are pros and cons to that, but what I would say is when you have an open system like we chose to have, it does not mean that you can't enforce fares. It means that you enforce fares differently, and that's what we're talking about. The other thing I'll say is all of those closed systems that you talked about all deal with fare evasion. New York City, the MTA just recently did a study saying that they lose between $700 million and $1 billion a year in fare evasion. So those closed systems, they are built that way, and they do have those turnstiles. Open systems are by design not built that way. Now, some of the things that open systems bring is that hop-on, hop-off nature of the Blue Line. It's also integrated into the community. We see that, whether it's in South End, Uptown, NoDa, we see how it's part of the community. It's part of the fabric of what makes these all of our neighborhoods great. The last thing I'll say is, again, and I'll reiterate, with an open system, there are absolutely ways, and we've talked about these, how we increase our presence and reduce to eliminate fare evasion. It's everything from validators to personnel, boots on the ground, people, and those are all of the things. I am only aware of one system in the U.S. that has actually tried to convert an open system to a closed system. It's St. Louis. And again, they have just done that, and so we'll continue looking at it. But I want to stress that open systems are by design. They are very different than subways. I know we think about trains are trains, but subways, light rails, streetcars, all of those are very different, and they have different operating characteristics. And our Blue Line is very similar to other light rail systems across the country.
Mayor Lyles, we know that what happened on the Blue
I think
Line,
that there's a young lady that's raised her hand right there.
Stephanie Escobar with Spectrum News. Mr. Cagle, can you explain how the UTVs and bikes will improve safety across rail, and will these officers be?
So again, the PPS PSS contract has a mix. So the officers are a mix of certified law enforcement, armed and unarmed. All of those officers are deployed throughout the system. What this does, especially in areas like Uptown and South End, where it is very difficult to reach some of these platforms by vehicle, this extends their reach, and it also gives them the ability to respond much more quickly. And the last thing I'll say about the UTVs and the bikes, partnered with the mutual aid agreement that was unanimously approved by City Council just 2 weeks ago. Together with that, it gives them the ability to extend their security or enforcement activities along the rail trail in areas that are proximate to our facilities.
Eric Spanberg with the Business Journal. I'm curious if there's been a lot of talk about a transit-specific police force. If the referendum passes, how long would it take to stand that up? How much would it cost? And what size force would it be? I know you don't have all the answers, but do you have any idea?
Those are all excellent questions, Eric. At this point, I can't answer that. It would be part of, if this passes on November 4th, part of that kind of conversation associated with the transition. There are many questions about how CATS as a city department would then transition to become part of a transit authority or an independent transit authority. I think that all of the questions you asked are part of that transition plan.
One thing I heard from several riders is that they want to have more possibilities to alert security and so forth if they are inside a streetcar and an incident happens. So whether it's through education or highlighting more of the possibilities of buttons and so forth, what is there now, and then what are you looking into to enhance that? And also, I know obviously you have surveillance camera on each of the cars, but being able to just access someone when you need help.
Yeah, so a couple things. We have over 4,500 cameras throughout our system. We have a lot of cameras. We are also looking at where those cameras need to be upgraded and where we have gaps and adding cameras. So we have the technology there when it comes to cameras for the passengers to let us know they have a lot of options. Specific to light rail, there's a call button on every train that goes directly to the operator, the train operator. That opens the channel for them to hear what's going on. Even if the passenger just hits the button but doesn't feel comfortable saying something, that opens the communications to the operator so that they can then have awareness of what's going on in the train car behind them and take appropriate action, notify CMPD, notify PPS, so that they can respond. The other thing I'll say, and we talk a lot about this, and I'm going to reiterate it, a lot of our riders, most of our riders use the CATS app to buy their tickets. The CATS app in the front page has report a problem function. Absolutely every rider, if they see something going on a platform, on a vehicle, they absolutely can and should use the report a problem function on the app. Again, that goes directly to dispatch so that they can understand, they can have two-way communications with that passenger, but that's not required. They can also then access the camera system to see what's going on and deploy staff accordingly. We are looking at how we increase the report a problem, the app, to make it even easier for passengers, but there are possibilities, and clearly 911 is always an option for everyone, whether they're in the community or using transit.
Mayor Lyles, would you be in favor of naming the light rail station after Rena Zarutska at the East Boulevard?
We're going to wrap this up. We appreciate you guys.
Could she answer that question, though?
What is the question?
Are you in favor? There's been a call to name the East-West Boulevard station after Rena Zarutska. Would you be in favor of that, Mayor?
I am not able to speak to that, as you would say right now. I think that is a really important decision, and a decision that shouldn't be made by someone that's just stepping up like this today. We have a lot to do, and I hope that you understand that that's why we're standing here today, is to answer as many questions as possible, but also to think about what would be the best thing to help our city be who we can be. And so what I want to say is thank you all for coming to do this. I want to recognize Council Member, Chair of our Transportation Committee, Ed Driggs, came in a little bit later, and I just want to have him have the opportunity to have a conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And I can tell you it was very disheartening for all of us on Charlotte City Council to get the news of the tragic death of Rena Zarutska. I do want to emphasize this happened in Charlotte, but this is not Charlotte. This is something that could have happened in a lot of places. It's a hideous crime, and like other hideous crimes, active shooters in schools and things like that, it stirs up emotions. It makes people afraid. Our job now is to allay those fears and to provide a security presence that will help people to get past this terrible event and get back to where we were, which is riding on these systems and enjoying the advantages that we have from these systems. I will mention, in response to your question, sir, the Charlotte officers that are hired by CATS are working off the CMPD clock. This is not overtime pay, which they get when they fill in duties for CMPD that normally would be filled by other officers. They do that the same way they do when they provide security in neighborhoods like mine. And as such, that pay doesn't qualify, as the union suggested, for inclusion in their CMPD service compensation. So I think you've heard about all the steps that are being taken. I've involved myself personally in a lot of it. We've had a lot of engagement with the FTA and the auditor's office in the state. We are responding in a very timely fashion to their questions and suggestions. And I think if you look at the correspondence, you will see that we are partnering with them in every way we can to get past this and to address a situation that we knew existed before, and that is that crime has got people worried right now. Crime in Charlotte does, crime on the trains and buses does, and we recognize that regardless of what the data may say, that is a concern. We have to take the emotions of those people seriously, and we cannot live in a city in which people are afraid to go out and afraid to get on a bus and get on a train. So I think you've seen the actions we're taking. Understand, though, it's difficult. So let's not let the rhetoric minimize the fact keeping people completely safe everywhere is hard. And you don't know when something could happen like what did. So I hope people will be able to regain confidence and trust us to do everything we can in order to make the system safe and let them get back to enjoying their lives in Charlotte. Thank you.